Mina stood in the middle of a dark room, the only light coming from a weak desk lamp, casting a dim glow over a stack of unpaid bills. She stared at the empty baby bottle and clenched her fists. A wave of helplessness surged through her, as if every last piece of hope had shattered. Her daughter, Chloe, was crying uncontrollably in her crib, her tiny face scrunched up from hunger, each sob cutting straight into Mina's heart. There were only 5,000 dong left in her wallet, not enough to buy milk for her child, not enough to keep living. She looked out the window at the bustling city of New York, glowing with lights, filled with the sound of honking cars and people rushing past each other. It all felt like a different world, a world she could never step into. Just a few months ago, she had a stable job, she had a future. But now, all that remained were unpaid bills and her little daughter looking at her with eyes full of fear. Mina took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. She opened her phone and searched for the number of her old friend, Evelyn. They had met during her darkest days, when she first arrived in the city, when she still held on to small hopes for a new life. Evelyn had once promised that if Mina ever needed help, she would always be there. But when Mina dialed, the call failed. The number was no longer in service. Mina bit her lip, her eyes burning. She had no other choice. Chloe needed milk, and she needed money to survive. She looked back at her phone, her fingers scrolling through the screen, through her contacts, until they stopped. Evelyn's number was gone, but there was someone else, someone she barely remembered, someone she had never called. In that moment of desperation, Mina didn't think twice. She quickly typed, "Hello, I need $500 to buy milk for my baby. I will pay it back by the end of the week. I'm sorry for bothering you." Then she hit send. Just like that, the message was gone. Mina didn't know that at the exact moment she knelt down to comfort her daughter, her message had reached someone else, a man she had never known, a man named Daniel Harris. Daniel stood in the spacious living room of a luxurious penthouse on the 40th floor of a towering skyscraper. The city lights streamed through the large glass windows, reflecting off the modern paintings on the walls. In contrast to the vibrant energy outside, the room itself felt strangely silent. It was already past midnight on New Year's Eve, yet Daniel felt no excitement. He stood there looking out the window, his eyes distant and empty. Ever since his father passed away, these occasions had lost all meaning. Parties, gatherings, they all felt hollow. His phone suddenly vibrated. He slowly glanced at the screen, scrolling through the notification until he saw an unfamiliar message from an unknown number. At first, he had no intention of opening it. He was used to messages from people trying to reach him for his wealth and power. But something stopped him. The words were short, yet filled with urgency and desperation. "Hello, I need $500 to buy milk for my baby. I will pay it back by the end of the week. I'm sorry for bothering you." This was not the plea of a scammer, not a manipulative message. The wording was simple, honest, without tricks. He read it again, 3 times. There was something in those words that he couldn't ignore. The phrase "milk for my baby" echoed in his mind, and an unexplainable sense of compassion rose within him. He took a deep breath, picked up his phone, and called the number back. The moment the call was answered, he said only one sentence: "I will help you." The next day, Daniel stood in front of Mina's apartment. He faced a worn-out door, holding a bag filled with milk, food, and baby supplies. Mina opened the door, staring at him in confusion, then at the bag in his hands. She couldn't believe her eyes. A billionaire, a man she had only ever heard about in stories, was standing at her doorstep in the late hours just to help a stranger. There was no explanation, no condition, just pure help. She didn't know what to do. Embarrassment and insecurity filled her, but all she could do was look at him and take the bag. "Thank you," she said, her voice trembling. "Thank you for coming. It's nothing." Daniel replied, his gaze calm and deep. "I only did what I knew was right." After Daniel left, Mina stood alone in her room, holding the bag, her heart filled with gratitude. But a part of her still couldn't understand. Why would he do this? Why would someone like Daniel, a billionaire, help someone like her? The answer would come in the days ahead, as the truth slowly began to unfold. Eva sat quietly on an old chair in her cramped room. Everything around her was silent, except for the steady ticking of the clock, like a reminder that time was passing with nothing changing. She looked at the phone in her hand, the screen light casting a pale glow across her face. Only a few minutes remained before midnight, and Chloe, her daughter, lay in the crib, lips pressed together, her breathing faint from hunger. Her fingers tightening around the phone. She had tried everything, done all she could to take care of her child, but now a deep sense of helplessness rose in her chest. She once had a stable job at a large bank, a job she believed would be the foundation for her life and her daughter's future. But then, because of a small incident, a question asked at the wrong time about unusual figures in a financial report, she lost everything. The company dismissed her without reason, and since then, she had not been able to find another job good enough to support her child. The days passed in Ori, unpaid bills, rushed meals, and every night was a battle between her and hunger. Everything had gone beyond what she could endure. Eva picked up her phone and began scrolling through her contacts, her heart heavy, not knowing who to turn to. And then, like the only path left, she tapped on the number of an old friend she had met years ago when she worked at a charity organization. Evelyn, the one who once promised she would always be there if needed. Eva sighed as she remembered those words, but now she could not call her because Evelyn's number had changed. There was only one choice left. Eva Bega illed with desperation. "Hello, I need $500 to buy milk for my daughter. I will pay it back by the end of the week. I'm sorry for bothering you." She pressed send without thinking any further. It felt like she had just thrown a stone into a deep abyss, hoping someone, somewhere, would hear the echo. What Eva did not know was that her message did not reach Evel in the hands of another man, someone she had never met, someone living a completely different life. Daniel Harris stood in his penthouse, gazing at the night view of New York City. He felt no joy from parties, no excitement from luxurious gatherings, a wealthy billionaire, yet alone in the crowd. He had everything people could ever want, but lacked the one thing he longed for most, a real connection. Tonight, like every other time, he did not attend any New Year celebrations. He simply stood by the wind, unmoved by the dazzling lights outside. His phone chimed with a message from an unknown number. He frowned, not intending to open it, but when he saw the words, something inside him would not let him ignore it. "Hello, I need $500 to buy milk for my daughter. I will pay it back by the end of the week. I'm sorry for bot," made him pause, his eyes sharpening as he opened the message again, reading it over and over. It was not a desperate plea filled with promises or manipulation, just simple, honest words, heavy with despair. A mother at her limit, left with only one choice. No demands, no tricks, only a quiet request for help in a moment of desperation. Daniel did not understand why, but he felt a deep, indescribable sympathy. He remembered his own childhood, the years of hardship, when his month in there was not enough money to buy medicine for her when she was sick. That feeling of having no one to turn to, of having to face everything alone, had never left him. And now, he could not ignore a cry for help like this. He picked up his phone without hesitation and called the number back. "Hello, this is Daniel Harris," he said as the call was answered. "I received your message. You do ill help you." Eva received the call while sitting motionless, still clutching her phone. When she heard the unfamiliar voice, she could not believe it. A man she had never met was telling her he would help. She did not understand how he knew about her, but her desperation left her with no strength to refuse. She nodded, even though he could not see her through the phone. The next day, right at midnight, Daniel appeared at Eva's door. She opened it and stood there, unable to believe her eyes. A tall man in an expensive suit holding a bag filled with milk, E.S. Eva froze, unable to speak. She looked at the bag, then back at Daniel, not knowing what to do next. But he simply smiled gently, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. "Thank you," Eva said, her voice breaking, her eyes unable to hide her gratitude. "Thank you for coming." Daniel looked at her and replied simply, yet full of reassurance. "It's nothing. This is what I can do. EVHT." He said nothing more, just placed the bag in her hands and turned away. And when the door closed, Eva stood there, staring at the bag in her hands, her heart filled with confusion. A billionaire, a complete stranger, had come to help her, someone who had never dared to hope for help from anyone. She did not know what had brought him here, but his kindness was the first light in the darkness of her life. Eva stood there staring at the bag in her hands, as if nothing had fully settled in yet. The cartons of milk, the food, the baby supplies, everything felt too good to be real. For the first time in months, she felt a flicker of hope, yet at the same time, doubt quietly crept into her heart. She remained frozen, her hands gripping the bag tightly, as if a single blink might make it all disappear. He looked back at Daniel. He stood quietly, his eyes gazing out the window, unhurried. In the stillness of the apartment, there was only the sound of her breathing and the unease tangled in her thoughts. She could not understand why someone like him, a billionaire with power and wealth, would be willing to help a stranger like her. She had heard many stories about the rich, people who only acted for their own benefit, never for someone like her. Eva opened her mouth but then stopped. She could not even understand herself. How could she thank someone like this? He had everything, while she had nothing but a small child and burdens she could not share. Still, she spoke, her voice trembling. "Thank you, Daniel. I don't know how to repay you." He turned to look at her, a gentle smee. "You don't need to thank me," he said softly, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "Everyone needs help sometimes. Just focus on taking care of your daughter." Those words felt like a miracle to Eva. For so long, she had everything alone. The months of struggling with loneliness, poverty, and lack had taught her resilience, but she had never imagined that someone would reach out a hand to help without any reason. At that moment, Eva realized that there are things in life that cannot be explained, and sometimes just having someone there is enough. "Chloe needs milk," Eva said after a moment of silence, glancing at the bag. "They'll." "Don't thank me anymore," Daniel replied as he stepped back toward the door. "Take care of yourself. K on you if needed." Eva stood there, watching his figure fade into the night. She did not know how her life would change after this evening. Be in months, she felt a sense of peace, as if there was something magical in small acts of kindness. She returned to Chloe, quickly changed her diaper, then carefully fed her with the new bottle of milk. Chloe drank eagerly, no longer crying, and that alone softened Eva's heart. Maybe things could change, she thought, if she could hold on to this hope. The next morning, Eva began thinking about everything that had happened. Why had Daniel helped her? There was something about him she could not air. A man who had everything, yet willing to do something so simple. She could not shake the feeling that something bigger was unfolding, but she did not dare to ask. Was she seeing this help as an opportunity, or simply as luck? Mina kept wondering whether she should call Daniel to thank him or not. She felt as if she owed him too much, yet at the same time, she feared that too much gratitude something important within herself. That uneasiness stayed with her throughout the morning. Eva did not dare to call Daniel. She worried that if she did, he might think she was weak, or that she might disturb him, even the chance she had never dreamed of. She did not want to be a burden to anyone, did not want to rely on someone else's kindness. She had overcome so many challenges on her own, and now Daniel's help forced her to confront a new fear, that she might become weaker. The thoughts kept circling in her mind, making her feel as if she was losing control. But then she looked at Chloe, saw her smiling softly in the crib, and warmth filled her heart again. Nothing mattered more than care of her daughter, and she had been given a chance to do that. The following day, Eva decided to call Daniel. She did not know what to say, but she felt she needed to express her gratitude, even if it made her uncomfortable. She dialed the number and waited. As the phone rang, she took a deep, steady her emotions. "Hello, Daniel. This is Eva," she said, her voice shaking. "Thank you for everything. I don't know what to say except my sincere thanks from the bottom of my heart." Daniel did not respond immediately. After a moment of silence, he spoke, his voice, "Eva, don't thank me anymore. As long as you can take care of your daughter, that's all I want." What Eva felt at that moment was not just gratitude, but relief. She asked, all it takes is someone willing to help without asking for anything in return. She had crossed a turning point in her life, and now she could begin again. "Have a good day, Eva," Daniel said. Eva lowered her phone and looked at Chloe with a gentle smile. Perhaps life would not be as difficult as before. She had received help she never expected, and now she would continue her journey. Moving forward, even though challenges still lay ahead, Eva felt a cold draft slip through the window, like a quiet signal of changes to come. She sat in her small apartment, her eyes fixed on the glowing lights of New York City outside. It was late into the night, yet she could not fall asleep. Thoughts of Daniel kept circling in her mind, as if he had somehow become an inseparable part of her life without her even realizing it. The feeling left her confused and uneasy. It had only been a brief encounter, a simple act of kindness, yet it had stirred something powerful deep within her heart. Words over and over, just take care of your daughter. That is all I want. The sentence echoed in her mind like a quiet cut that would not let her rest. She felt as though she was standing at a crossroads. Had Daniel helped her purely out of kindness, or was there something more, something greater that she could not yet see? Chloe lay sleeping while lips gently pressed together in a peaceful dream. Eva looked at her daughter, her heart tightening. She could not ignore the quiet worries closing in around her. Had she ever imagined that one day she would receive help from a stranger, from a man like Daniel who seemed to have everything? He certainly did not need anything from her. So why had he done it? Even though she tried not to question it, curiosity kept rising within her. The next day, Eva received a call. Beth Osessit, her phone rang, and the name on the screen made her freeze, Daniel. She took a deep breath, feeling as though everything was changing too quickly, and she was not ready to face it. She looked at the screen, then quickly answered. Hello, Eva, Daniel's voice came through, calm and thoughtful. Uncomfortable, but I want to ask you something. Eva stayed silent, her chest tightening. She did not know how to respond, so she did. You must have a lot of questions about what happened last night, Daniel continued. I just want to say for any special reason, I simply thought you needed help. His words made her heart feel lighter. The confusion inside her eased, just a little. It really was as simple as he said. Not because she owed anything, not for any hidden purpose, but simply because he wanted to help, because he saw that she needed it. You probably have many reasons to feel uneasy about this, Daniel said, his voice slowing, filled with understanding. But I want you to know the eel that way. I only helped because it was the right thing to do. Eva felt as if a heavy weight had been lifted from her shoulders. She held the phone, listening to every word, and for the first time, she felt a sense of peace. She did not have to repay him in any way. He had simply helped her, nothing more. After that call, Eva realized that life was not only made of worries and exhaustion. Sometimes, when everything seemed to fall apart, there would be a hand reaching out, helping you see perspective. She began to wonder, if Daniel had not appeared, would she have been able to keep going? That feeling stayed with her throughout the day. She decided to write a letter to thank Daniel. Even though she knew no words could truly repay what he had done, she at least wanted him to understand how muter, she wrote. Thank you for everything, for what you have done for me and Chloe. Thank you for making me feel that I am not alone. When Eva sent the letter, she felt a part of her heart begin to heal. Yet at the same time, there was still something unclear, something she could not fully grasp. She knew she was stepping into a new chapter of her life, but could walk this path without facing even bigger questions. The following day, Daniel appeared once again. This time, he did not come to bring supplies, but to speak with her directly. Eva's apartment was still as small as before, yet his presence made the space feel somehow larger. He stepped inside, wholly visiting a close friend. There was nothing formal, only a quiet understanding in the way he carried himself. Eva, I think you should know that I do not just want to help you once, Daniel said, his gaze steady, yet filled with care. I want to do more than that. Eva looked at him, hesitant. What do you mean? How do you want to help me? Daniel stepped closer and sat down Ramher. I know you do not want a drastic change in your life, but I can help you find a new job, a stable one, where you can stand on your own without work problems. His words left Eva stunned. She had never imagined that someone her out of her struggles and offer her a chance to start over. Never in her life had she felt such a powerful wave of emotion as she did in that moment. Eva stood still, her eyes fixed on the window, where the city of New York still glowed with endless lights. Yet those lights now only made her feel even more alone. A heavy sense of worry pressed down on her chest, a feeling she could not shake. Daniel's words from yesterday kept echoing in her mind. I want to do more than that. She had never imagined her life could change in this way. And now, right in front of her, was an opportunity she had never even dared to dream of. Chloe was sleeping in her crib, her tiny hands clutching the blanket, and Eva looked at her with eyes full of love and concern. Everything felt uncertain, as if life was spinning in circles with no clear direction. Did she have the strength to take this chance? Could she allow someone else into her life without paying the price shaped by her past relationships? She did not know, but the unease continued to rise within her. Part of her wanted to refuse everything, to keep doing small jobs, to earn money on her own and raise her child without relying on anyone. She had lived so many years alone, with no one by her side, and she believed she could continue that way. But her mind told her this was an opportunity she could not ignore. Daniel could help her not just with small amounts of money, but with something real, a stable job and a new life. She could not keep hiding inside her own shell, could not continue fighting every storm alone without anyone beside her. She let out a slow breath, picked up her phone and called Daniel. The nervousness tightened in her chest. She dialed, listened to the ringing tone, and then finally, the familiar voice came through from the other end. Hello, Eva, Daniel said, his voice warm and gentle as always. Thank you for helping me yesterday, Eva began, her voice hesitant, yet her gratitude was undeniable. I don't know what to say, but I want you to know that I truly appreciate it. Daniel paused for a moment before replying, There is no need to thank me. I only did what I believed was right. Honestly, I don't know if I can accept a new job, Eva continued, her emotions tangled and heavy. I have grown used to this life, even though it is difficult, even though it is lonely, but I also know I cannot keep living like this forever. Daniel listened without interrupting, letting her speak freely. He understood that this decision was not easy for her. He knew she had faced too many hardships to simply accept help from someone else, and he also knew that sometimes a person must overcome themselves to begin a new chapter in life. I understand, Daniel said, his voice still calm but firm, but I believe in you. You have done so much for Chloe, and you deserve a chance to live without constant financial worry. The job I am offering is not just about giving you income, it is about giving you a chance to change your life. Eva could not deny that. She looked at Chloe sleeping peacefully and felt something stir deep inside her. Chloe was everything she had, and she wanted her daughter to have a better life, one without the constant fear of money and an uncertain future. But could she really let go of the past, of the pain and the scars, and start over again? Maybe I need some time to think, Eva said, not because she did not want to accept, but because she did not know if she was brave enough to change. Of course, Daniel replied, when you are ready, I will always be here. I just want you to know that you are not alone. After the call ended, Eva sat quietly, staring at the dark screen of her phone. Daniel's words still echoed in her mind. You are not alone. She could feel the sincerity in those words, something so different from everything she had heard from others before. She looked at Chloe and felt her heart beating stronger. She could not keep living in fear and loneliness. Yes, she had done everything for her daughter, but now she also needed to live for herself. She could not keep chasing a life that never had a place to rest. In the end, she made her decision. She needed to be stronger, not only for Chloe, but for herself. She would accept. She would not let herself be left behind in a life without hope. That evening, Eva sent a short message to Daniel. I have thought about it, and I want to accept the job. I am ready. A moment later, her phone vibrated, and Daniel replied, I'm glad to hear that. You won't regret it, Eva. We will do this together. Eva smiled, feeling a sense of peace she had been searching for all this time. She knew this was only the beginning and the road ahead would not be easy, but at least now she was no longer alone on this journey. The next morning, Eva woke up with a strange feeling. She could not clearly remember how long she had slept, but the sense of a new day filled her, making her feel that something had changed. The night before, after sending the message to Daniel, she had spent hours awake, lost in restless thoughts. But now, as the first light of dawn slipped through the window, she felt something new rising within her, a quiet strength she could not explain. She got up and walked into the living room where Chloe was sleeping peacefully, her tiny hands wrapped around the blanket. Looking at her daughter, Eva wondered if she could truly give her a better life. She knew that accepting the job from Daniel was not an easy decision, but every time she looked into Chloe's eyes, something inside her pushed her forward. She could not continue living in poverty and self-doubt. She could not keep hiding from the fear that she might not be strong enough to change her life. Eva prepared breakfast for Chloe and fed her, as sunlight filled the kitchen and brightened the quiet space. While Chloe ate, Eva thought about what Daniel had said the night before. He had not asked anything from her. He only wanted her to understand that she was not a burden and that she deserved a better life. That feeling, that sincerity from a stranger, was something she could not forget. Maybe this time, she did not have to do everything alone. She had decided to meet Daniel that afternoon. It was not only about the job, but also because she wanted to understand more about what he was doing. She wanted to know who this man really was, whether he was truly as kind as he seemed. After all, a billionaire willing to help a stranger in her situation could not be explained as simple kindness alone. Still, she felt that she needed to meet him, to know more. Throughout the day, Eva prepared for the meeting with Daniel. She tried to make her home look a little neater, even though she knew it could never compare to his luxurious penthouse. But that no longer mattered. She understood that life was not always about appearances. What mattered was who she was, her determination to change and keep moving forward. In the afternoon, Eva arrived at the cafe where Daniel had asked to meet. As she stepped inside, the atmosphere was warm, people around her chatting softly, but everything seemed to fade when she saw Daniel sitting at a table near the window. He was dressed in a black suit, his gaze fixed outside, but when he noticed her, his eyes lit up slightly, and a gentle smile appeared on his lips. "Eva, I'm glad you could come," Daniel said as he stood up to greet her. "Please, have a seat." She smiled, a little shy at first, but that feeling quickly faded as she sat across from him. The world around them seemed to quiet, leaving only the two of them and the conversation ahead. "Thank you for taking the time to meet me," Eva began, trying to keep her voice steady. "I truly don't know what to say, but I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity. It is something I never could have imagined." Daniel nodded slightly, not speaking right away. He let her finish, listening without interruption, his eyes focused, as if trying to understand everything she was feeling. "Thank you for giving me the freedom to think about my choices," Eva continued, "but I am still not completely sure about everything. I'm afraid I might not be able to meet your expectations, or even my own." Daniel smiled, a warm and understanding smile. "Eva, I have no expectations of you. I don't want you to feel pressured. You just need to live your life. And if you need help, I will be here. The job is an opportunity for you to grow, not a burden." Eva fell silent for a moment, meeting his eyes before lowering her gaze to the table. His words felt like a reminder that she did not always have to fight alone. No one is perfect, and no one should live only to meet the expectations of others. But to Eva, these words meant more than any lesson she had ever learned. Gathering a bit of courage, she looked straight at Daniel and said, "I have thought about what you said, and I want to try. I want to take this job." Daniel's eyes brightened, a quiet satisfaction passing through them. "I believe you can do it." A strange yet freeing feeling spread through Eva's heart. She felt a relief she had never known before. From this moment on, she understood that she had stepped out of her comfort zone, but this time she would not walk alone. Daniel's help was not just financial support, it was a door opening to a new life. As they stood up to leave, Eva felt that the road ahead would not be easy, but at least she would no longer have to face it alone. She had found someone, and an opportunity, that could change her life forever. Eva did not know how long she had been waiting, but when she stepped into Daniel's office, her heart was still racing. The room was spacious and modern, sunlight streaming through large glass windows, making the space feel even more open. Everything around her radiated elegance, yet instead of making her feel distant, it felt like a quiet reminder of everything she had never dared to dream of. Daniel stood behind a large desk, his eyes resting on her with a strange kind of patience. Even though he had already helped her so much, Eva could not shake off the anxiety about this meeting. Today, she was not only here to talk about the job, but also to find out whether she was truly ready for the major changes in her life. She took a deep breath, stepped forward, and sat down in the chair across from him. Daniel looked at her, not speaking right away, only offering a gentle smile. "Eva, thank you for coming," he said, his voice warm yet carrying a quiet sense of professionalism. Eva nodded, unsure of what to say first. Daniel's words from the night before still echoed in her mind. "You don't have to feel pressured. You just need to live your life." But inside her, doubt still lingered. How could she overcome the barriers within herself? How could she believe that life would not return to the same loneliness and hardship as before? "Daniel, I don't know where to begin," Eva said, her voice slightly trembling. "Everything is changing too fast, and I'm not sure I can do this." Daniel listened closely, his gaze steady on her, calm in a way that felt almost unfamiliar. He did not rush her, did not push her, he simply waited for her to find the right words. "Eva, I don't expect you to do anything immediately," Daniel said, gently interrupting her. "I understand how you feel. Your life has been full of challenges, and big changes can make you feel like you're losing control. But you've done well until now. You've been a mother. You've taken care of Chloe in difficult circumstances. That is something very few people can do." Eva looked at him, her eyes filled with emotion. She could not remember the last time someone had spoken to her with such genuine encouragement. There was no judgment, no comparison, only understanding. His words made her feel, for the first time in a very long time, that she was truly seen. "It's hard for me to believe this," Eva sighed. "I've always been used to facing everything on my own. I never wanted anyone to help me. But now, I find myself standing here, in front of an opportunity I never even dared to imagine." Daniel did not respond immediately. He sat quietly, giving her time to think. In the stillness, there was only the steady rhythm of her breathing and the faint ticking of the clock on the wall. It was a moment where Eva felt a sense of release, as if she had finally spoken out everything she had kept hidden for so long. Finally, Daniel spoke. "Eva, I don't just want you to take this job for money. I want you to see yourself differently. You are strong, even if you feel weak right now. And I believe you can do this. This job is only a beginning, but I want you to feel your own value. You don't have to prove anything to me. I just want you to live as your true self." Eva felt as if she were standing at a crossroads, but this time, the path ahead was no longer unclear and filled with fear. Daniel's words were like a beam of light cutting through the darkness, and a part of her began to believe that she could move forward. She did not have to face life alone anymore. She did not have to fight everything by herself. "All right," Eva said, her voice growing steadier. "I will try. I will do this." Daniel smiled, his expression filled with quiet confidence. "I believe in you, Eva." They sat in silence for a moment, but this time there was no awkwardness in the air. Eva felt the shift within herself, as if she had taken a step out of the darkness, even if it was only a small one. She knew she could not change everything overnight, but at least now she had support, and she was ready to try again. An hour later, Eva left Daniel's office with a lighter heart and a stronger spirit. She no longer felt lost. For the first time in a very long time, she felt like she could face whatever challenges lay ahead. She looked out the window, saw the city lights glowing brightly, and knew she was on a new path, a path she had chosen for herself. When she returned home, Eva saw Chloe playing on the floor and smiled warmly. She knew she would do everything to give her daughter a better future. And this time, she was not alone. She could believe in herself, and more importantly, she could believe in the people who would walk beside her. Eva sat at her desk, staring at the computer screen, but her mind had already drifted far away. She felt exhausted, not because of the work, but because of the constant changes happening in her life. Over the past few weeks, everything had shifted so quickly that she barely had time to realize where she stood. A new job, a new environment, a new connection, all of it felt like a powerful wave carrying her forward without giving her a moment to pause and reflect. She had started working at Daniel's company, a place completely different from anything she had known before. Everything was modern and professional, filled with people full of energy and talent. Yet, Eva still felt like a small part of a vast system. Every day she came to the office, she felt as if she was racing against others, trying to keep up with the pace of the work around her. Even so, Daniel's words continued to echo in her mind. You don't have to prove anything to me. I just want you to live as your true self. Those words gradually made her realize that this job was not a burden, but an opportunity to grow, to rediscover her confidence. Today, as Eva was working at her desk, she received an unexpected call. When she looked at the screen and saw Daniel's name, a flicker of surprise crossed her mind, but she quickly answered. Hello, Eva. Daniel's voice came through. I'd like to meet you today. There are a few things I want to talk about. She was slightly surprised, but without hesitation, Eva agreed to meet him right away. She quickly arranged her things and left the office, unable to calm the uneasiness in her heart. She did not know what he wanted to discuss, but a part of her felt that this meeting would be important. Up until now, Daniel had always been approachable, calm, and patient. He never forced her to change, never demanded that she quickly fit into his world, yet his presence always made Eva feel that something was different. She could not explain it, but she felt he was someone she could trust, someone she could rely on when needed. Eventually, she arrived at the cafe where Daniel had asked to meet. As she stepped inside, she saw him sitting at a corner table, his expression more serious than usual. He did not look up immediately, but when Eva sat down, he began to speak. Eva, I don't know if you feel this way, but I think you've been doing very well at your job, Daniel said. However, I've noticed that you still don't seem completely comfortable. Do you feel like you don't really belong here yet? Eva looked into his eyes and saw understanding there. She did not know how to answer. She did not want to admit that she still felt out of place, that she had not yet found a stable footing. But something inside her told her this was the moment to face her own feelings. Maybe, Eva replied softly, I'm still trying to adjust. Everything is so new, and I don't know if I'm capable of keeping up. Daniel nodded, as if he had expected that answer. I understand how you feel, but remember, you don't have to do everything perfectly. You don't need to become someone else. You are who you are, and that is what I want you to keep. Eva felt his words like a gentle wave washing away her worries. For so long, she had lived in fear of not being good enough, not being strong enough to face challenges. But now, sitting across from Daniel, she felt as if she had found a new path, one where she did not have to change who she was. I can help you further if you want, Daniel continued, his voice steady, yet filled with deep concern. Maybe you just need a stepping stone to move forward, and I believe you will do well if you have someone walking alongside you. Eva could not help but feel moved by those words. It was as if all the fear and isolation she had carried for so long were slowly fading away. She was not fighting alone. She had Daniel, and not just his support, but his genuine encouragement. It's hard for me to believe this, Eva admitted, but her eyes were brighter now. But I will try, Daniel. I will do this. Daniel smiled, a natural and accepting smile. I believe you will do well. When the meeting ended, Eva felt that something inside her had changed. She no longer felt afraid of stepping into this new world, no longer felt like an outsider. Every step she took now had more direction, and there was someone always ready to support her, not out of simple kindness, but out of trust and patience. As she returned to the office, her heart no longer felt heavy. She was ready to face the challenges ahead, and more than ever, she felt that she was no longer alone on this journey. Eva woke up the next morning with a strange feeling, as if something in her life was changing in a way she could not fully grasp. The night before, she had a long conversation with Daniel, and throughout the night, his words kept echoing in her mind. She knew that her life had already begun to shift, and it felt as though she was standing at an important turning point. But when she looked at Chloe sleeping peacefully on the bed, Eva could not deny one truth. She could not change everything overnight. She could not simply step into a new world without fear or hesitation. She sat down at her desk, staring at the computer screen, yet her mind refused to focus on the numbers and tasks waiting for her. Even though she was now working at a large company, given an opportunity she had never dared to dream of, she still felt like an outsider, someone who did not truly belong. That feeling clung to her like a shadow, making every step she took feel heavier. The night before, Daniel had helped her realize that not everything in life needed to be perfect. He had told her that she did not have to prove anything to anyone, that she only needed to live as her true self. Those words felt like a beam of light cutting through the darkness inside her. Yet even so, she could not completely escape the fear of not being strong enough, not confident enough to face new challenges. Could she really do this job well? Could she live with this change without losing herself? Those questions lingered in her mind all morning. Eva had always been used to facing everything alone, fighting through every hardship by herself. But this time, something inside her told her that she could no longer remain alone. Something made her want to try trusting others, to believe in the promises Daniel had given her. As she lifted her head, Daniel suddenly appeared at the doorway. His expression was no longer as serious as before. He smiled at her, but there was a firmness in his eyes, a certainty she had never noticed so clearly. "Eva, I think you're ready," Daniel said, his voice warm yet steady. Eva stood up, a wave of nervousness rising inside her, yet she could not deny that something within her had changed. She no longer felt afraid standing in front of him. "Ready for what?" she asked, even though she already sensed the answer. "To work with me," Daniel replied, and in his eyes, Eva saw a strong belief, a trust she had never received from anyone else. "We are not just working together because of the job, but because you deserve this. You deserve a better life, not because of me, but because of yourself." His words felt like a quiet affirmation, making Eva feel as though she could stand firm in any situation. She did not need to fear being weak. She was already strong, and she would prove it, not only to Daniel, but to herself. In the days that followed, Eva began to change. She was no longer the woman constantly worried about work or the future. She started approaching her job with more confidence, facing challenges without fear. Each day she walked into the office, she felt a clearer sense of purpose, not just to complete tasks, but to discover herself, to uncover a strength she had never realized she had. The company was no longer a place filled with pressure and insecurity. It became a place where she could contribute, where she could create change. She began sharing creative ideas, speaking up in meetings without hesitation, and no longer felt like an outsider. Gradually, her colleagues started to notice her, to respect her, and Eva no longer saw herself as inadequate. That evening, when Eva returned home, Chloe was sitting on the floor playing, her innocent eyes looking up at her mother with love. Eva sat down beside her, took her small hands, and smiled. She knew she had made the right decision, not only for herself, but for her daughter. Chloe would have a better life, and Eva would not let anything stand in her way. She had found strength within herself. The feeling of change did not come all at once, but Eva realized that she was no longer afraid. The challenges ahead no longer filled her with anxiety. She had overcome her fear of not being enough and stepped out of her comfort zone. And now she would face everything with confidence, because she knew she was strong enough to face it all. Eva sat quietly in the room, her eyes fixed on the computer screen, but her mind was spinning with thoughts she could not push away. She had just gone through a busy week working at Daniel's company, and although everything seemed to be going smoothly, there was still a strange feeling inside her, something she could not quite explain, as if she were standing at a crossroads, unsure of which direction to take. She had stepped out of her comfort zone, begun a new chapter in her life, yet she still could not fully trust what she had achieved, at the office earlier than usual. Her workspace no longer looked messy like before. Everything was neatly arranged, reports completed on time. She had changed, and these changes were not only reflected in her work, but also in how she saw herself and the world around her. Yet there were still moments when she sat alone in silence, when she could not help but ask herself if she was truly capable of meeting Daniel's expectations. She did not want questions kept lingering in her mind. Even though she had proven her abilities at work, a part of her still lacked confidence. She could not stop thinking about the past, about the years she had struggled just to survive. Back then, all she had was persistence and determination. But now, in a world full of challenges and opportunities, she could not be certain about what lay ahead. Over the past few days, Daniel had hellings about herself. He had not only supported her at work, but also made her understand that she no longer had to fight alone. Yet when she looked at her life, she still felt an emptiness. Had she lived in loneliness for so long that she no longer dared to believe in help from others? Just then, the sound of her phone ringing pulled Eva out of mind. It was Daniel. She did not know why, but the moment she saw his name, a sense of unease rose inside her. She quickly picked up the call. "Hello, Eva." Daniel's voice came from the other end. "Still gentle and understanding, talk to you for a bit." Eva straightened up, sensing a tension in his tone. It was not something overwhelming, yet there was his words. "What is it, Daniel?" she asked, trying to stay calm. "We need to discuss a few matters in the company," Daniel replied, his voice lower now. "There are issues I can no longer ignore," rose within Eva. She did not know whether the issues he mentioned had anything to do with her work, even though she had been felt like a stranger within the company. "It must be something important," Eva said softly, trying to keep herself steady. "When can we meet?" "We can meet right now," Daniel answered. "I'm near the office." She agreed immediately, but inside, her thoughts would not stop racing. Even though she had grown and cannot avoid the uneasiness when facing new challenges. When Eva arrived, Danny for her in the meeting room. He looked at her with a familiar gaze, but this time, there was something more serious in his eyes. Eva felt slightly unsettled as she met his gaze. Was her work? "Eva," Daniel began without hesitation. "We are facing some financial issues in the company. There are transactions I cannot explain. I need your help to investigate them." Eva felt a shock run through her. She had never imagined that the company's dealing with something so serious. In the past few days, she had been focused on her work, but now everything seemed to be shifting beneath her feet. She did not know what was strong enough to face this. "Is this why you wanted to meet me?" Eva asked, unable to hide her unease. "I'm not sure I have the ability to investigate something like this." Daniel looked at her, calm but firm. "Eva, I trust you. I did not ask anyone else because I know you have the ability to uncover the truth. You have self in your work. I don't want you to feel pressured, but I need your help." Eva looked at him, feeling as though all her fears had suddenly was no longer just about completing reports. She was stepping into something much bigger, something that might lead her to places she had never expected. She took a deep breath and looked straight into Daniel's eyes. "I will help you. But I need him clearly, Daniel. I cannot do this without knowing all the details." Daniel nodded and began explaining the financial issues in detail. As she listened, everything seemed more complex than she had imagined. Yet a part of her felt Strawn's no longer just a job, it was an opportunity to prove her worth. After the meeting ended, Eva felt as though she had stepped into a new world, one filled with challenges, but also Effie knew this would not be easy. But at least now, she was no longer afraid. She had been given a chance to do something meaningful, and this time she would not walk away. She was strong enough to face whatever came next. And that is Eva's journey, from a single mother struggling through a life full of challenges to a woman brave enough to face the truth and embrace change. Her story is not only a lesson in perseverance, but also a reminder that sometimes we need help, and sometimes new opportunities can come from places we never expect. If this story has inspired you, don't forget to like and share so that others around you can also feel the power of change and hope. Leave a comment about what you have learned from Eva and Daniel, or simply share your own story. And don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss more inspiring stories in the future. Life may never be easy, but like Eva, we can always find the strength to change, as long as we never give up.